So let's put some damage on our building now, right on those edges there. All right, so why don't I look at my source material real quick. Let me bring that up real quick. So I'm going to bring up my source here. Let me bring up Maya again. There's my source. And here's our building we're working with. I see these edges have like this really gnarly damage coming in on the corners here. What we can do now is we can actually go in and model this damage out. But we have to pay attention to not messing with our current UV setup here. We cannot mess with our UVs too much here. You can already see we've got a little bit of irregularity going on here when we made our beveled edge, but it's still working because we didn't mess with the vertex count. Anytime that you stretch or move a vertice around or delete a vertice altogether, it really messes up your UV sheet. Case in point, I'm going to take this vertice. Well, I'll take this vertex. Actually, I can't delete them quite yet. Let me get a good example of that. So what if I wanted to just, what if I snap this vertice, oh my goodness, all the way there? We've already messed with our vertex right there, and we're just getting some gnarly stretching. We don't want that. So I'm going to undo that. So what we can do, though, is we can make new lines on our model, and if we don't mess with any of the existing vertices on our wall, it shouldn't mess with our texture stretching all crazy. So I'm just going to pick a few edges on my building here, and we're going to model in some damage. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to learn how to go into Edge Tool. I'm going to insert some new edges here. So I think multi-cut's what I need. And I'm going to start at a vertice as my starting point. And I'm just going to come in and make a little divot like so. All right. And I'm going to do the same thing kind of up here. This time I'm going to start over here. I'm going to come up right into the center there. I didn't want to start all the way up there. And I'm going to go here. And then why don't I do something like that? You got to make sure of a few things here. You got to make sure you don't leave any five-sided polygons going on. All right. And in fact, I don't like the way that looks. So I'm going to undo that. And I'm actually going to start right there. And we're just going to make kind of a diamond shape now. You'll notice that my multi-cut tool will cut across already existing edges here. So it'll just kind of create that divot for us. And what I'm going to do now, and this is going to seem crazy, but I'm going to delete all of these faces here. Boom, they're gone. Now what I'm going to do, in Edge Mode, I'm going to double click this little hole here. And now I've got all these edges selected. And I'm going to hold Shift, right click, and I'm going to Extrude Edge. All right. And now I've got this whole new divot thing happening. Oh. I'm just going to bring it to the center there. And then what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to try to get it as scaled in as possible. Let me get a good view of what's going on here. We have this little divot now. I'm going to go into Vertex Mode. I'm going to select just one of these, single click one of these vertices. I'm going to hold down Shift and drag. So now I have every single vertice selected except one because I just did an inverse selection. So you can see that one vertice is not there anymore. Let me unscale this so you can see a little bit better what's going on here. So for instance, let's say I select that vertice and I hold down Shift and drag. Now I've selected all the vertices over here and I've deselected this one. Now I can press W for my move tool, hold down V for vector, and just snap it all together. Wait, that's not working. What I'm going to do is I'm going to double click my move tool and move snap settings. I'm going to go to Move Snap Settings and uncheck Retain Component Spacing. So now when I snap, they all converge onto that one vertex. Now I'm going to select all the vertices again. I'm going to go to Mesh Tools, Merge, make sure that number is small because all my vertices are snapped on top of one another, and hit Apply. So now you'll notice we have like this garish, untextured thing going on right now, and it doesn't look too good. Well, that's because we need to put a texture on it. So what I'm going to do is, first I got to UV map this new little divot we just made, like so. And you know what? I'm going to go in and finesse what it looks like a little bit more. I don't like the shape of that. It's too severe. So I'm going to go here. And since we don't have UV set up on this divot, I can do whatever I want to it. The thing I can't do is start messing with these vertices up here. We can already see I'm getting some texture stretching going on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into edge mode and I'm going to finesse, do some multi-cuts. I'm going to make some new edges here. And then I can go in and really just start pushing and pulling this damage here. Press F to get a better view of it. That way we can get some uneven geometry, like it was really just decayed and eroding. And I'm going to do the same thing for the bottom here. Go to edge mode, select the multi-cut tool, start from that vertex, finish that vertex, hit enter to complete the edge. This camera's being finicky, huh? And then I'm just going to stretch and drag. I don't want to go outside of it because this damage doesn't increase the mass. I got to dig into this like so. And what we're seeing are some really gnarly looking edges right here, hard edges. So I'm going to select my whole newly made damage section, all the little faces here. I'm going to go into wireframe view to make sure I don't have any other selected. And I want to go to, let's see, where is soften edges in 2016? Sorry, 2016 has changed up a lot of stuff, so I'm having to look for stuff. We go to this mesh display, and I'm going to soften these edges here. If I press 6 on the keyboard, now we don't get those hard edges, but we do get a gnarly little damage thing here. All right, great. So what we need to do now is we need to re-UV this little patch of damage here. So I'm going to select just these faces here. And I'm going to go into wireframe mode and make sure I don't have any other faces selected by pressing 4 on the keyboard. And I'm going to UV this. So I'm going to look at it straight on. I'm going to go to the UV menu. I'm going to go to camera based. And I'm going to open up my UV sheet. And now I have, so what I'm going to do is, it's kind of hard to see, so I'm going to select these bottom UVs, hold down Control, and select right click and select to shell. So now I have just that newly made damage selected. And you can even see me. There we go. So now I kind of want to relax these UVs to lay them out really nicely so they're not, all messed up and disproportionate. Because if I select my UV here and kind of run them over, you can see how it's kind of just wavy and fisheye and it just gets weird stretches as I move it around here. That's not what we want. Why don't we press our little get rid of texture button real quick so we don't have to worry about that white background. And we're going to go to Tool, and we're going to go to Unfold UV Tool. This brings up a little paintbrush, and we're just going to left click and kind of paint over it. And now that's going to unfold our UV island so it's more, it's not as distorted and stretched out. I want to bring back my texture by pressing the little landscape there. And it's closer in resemblance to what the actual UV layouts would be. So what are we going to do with this? I mean, I really don't have anything to do with it now. I guess I need to go in and make a new texture for this damage piece now. So for now, I'm going to move this little damage patch off the UV grid, and I need to get back to texturing. So in Photoshop, I have my original texture right here. I need to go online and find some damage texture. So there's our outline. I'm going to go to cgtextures.com. And now I'm going to try to find some damaged concrete or damaged brick textures. Let's see if I can just type it in, damaged concrete. And here we go. We have some stencils. You know, we can even go in and pick a larger texture file and just pick out the pieces we need of it. So I'm going to look for something that's like really gnarly like that, just really beat up. So we're just going to look around. That could be an option. You know, something like this, you know, we can almost see the rebar and whatnot, but nothing too busy. That's a good example of what we're looking for here. You see how this, it's smooth and it goes to all this faceted look right there, but I want to see if I can just find something a little bit better than that. I'm going to pause until I find the right one, and I'll come back to you. There, my Easter egg hunt's over, and I'm going to settle on this guy right here. But as you notice, it's pretty small. It doesn't cover the whole thing here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and opt in for a larger texture size. And just so I make sure I can get enough information here, I'm going to click the large download of that. And it's going to go into my downloads folder. Let me hold it up. Yeah, I'll be checking out that WildStar game. And that's a student's assignment. And there's my downloaded texture right there. So I want to get rid of that. And I'm just going to click and drag that onto this dark gray bar at the top of Photoshop. And now I can get in and start working with this texture here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my lasso tool. I'm just going to lasso the damaged part right here. All right. And I'm going to go to Edit, or rather Select, and do an inverse selection. And since I've already flattened this layer out by double clicking it, I can press delete. And now I'm just left with this damage right here. But I need to get this into more of a square pattern here so I can place it really nicely on my texture sheet. For right now, let's just kind of go ahead and I'm going to drag a marquee box, hit Control C to copy that. I'm going to paste it on here. So this is the size we're looking for here. And I'm going to try to fill up a maybe 6x3 area here. So if I do that, we can already see that it's way too big. So if I hit Control T for my transform tool, maybe something like that, and then we'll go ahead and rotate it, or I guess we can keep it. I want to rotate it like that. Like so. And place it right in there. And then we're going to have to do a little bit of cleaning up to get it to fit just right. So I'm going to delete right around the edges I don't want there. And then why don't we use our clone tool? And we were using this little stamp tool to come in and just increase it just by a little bit. And I don't like that, those weird brown spots. So I'm going to clone those out like so. And there we have kind of a nice damaged, faceted kind of concrete feel going on here. And I'm going to just And I got snap turned on in my view, so my marquees that I'm dragging are snapping to my grid. I'm just going to clean that up, get it right in those boundaries that we've set up. All right. I'm going to hit save. I'm going to hit save as. I'm going to select PNG, and that's the texture that Maya is linked to in my hypershade. I'm going to select it. I'm going to replace it. I'm going to do its save thing. Now we're going to go back into Maya here. Let's bring up my, go to Windows, Rendering Editors, Hypershade. Double click my texture. I got to rename it. Texture main map. We'll click on my texture we're working with, go to File, and hit Reload. And that'll reload that texture into Maya. So now when I go into my UV editor, where is it at? There we go. Now I can see my damage right there. So now it's just a matter of taking that little damage spot right here and just positioning it right into that damage. Like so. And there we go. It's a crude way of doing it, and it's definitely not the most visually appealing, but for our skill level right now of what we know about modeling, I think it's doing just fine. And you know what? I feel like I could do a better divot here. That was just my first try. So what I'm going to do, and I think the biggest problem I have with this is it's just like too regular here. It's just too much of an angle. So why don't I go ahead and try to make a new damage place a little bit below it right here. And why don't we see if we can fix this straight up long line there, because that's not how damage should look. It should be a little bit more jagged, a little bit more crooked, right? So what we're going to have to do is we're really going to have to go in and mess with our lines here. And it's tricky because, like I said, you can't go in and just delete vertices and totally remodel this thing. You have to work within the confines of what you've already built, because we don't want to get that garish texture stretching going on, right? So I'm going to experiment a little bit with what I can do. All right, multi-cut tool, smoothing angle. So are there any other? There's a way where you could start in the middle of a face back in the day. I think I'll forego that. Well, I have to start somewhere. So I might as well start back on that corner there. And I might as well kind of do that same pattern we had going on. And I'll hit enter. But this time I'm going to go in and make some more unusual patterns here with my edge tool. Like so. All right, and I'm terminating into these corners here because I don't want to have 5-sided polygons. 4-sided and 3-sided are what you want. All right, and I can't just take this little vertice and angle it up, because that's going to mess with the stretching of my model there, and that's going to look bad. But what I can do is I can go in and just maybe make another little line there and do the same here. And this new line is going to be my new contour. And in fact, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to really get in there and mess it up. All right. Notice how I'm only making triangles here. All right, let me undo that one. There we go. So now I can go in, and I'm going to fudge this a little bit. Don't tell anybody. It's not going to be that noticeable, that little stretch there. So there's my corner over here that's messed up. And in fact, I'm going to undo that. I don't want it to go straight to that edge again. So what we're going to do, I'm an edge. What did I just do? undo that for sure. That was weird. I'm in edge mode, multi-cut. I'm going to just terminate it right there. And then go in right there. Oh, I don't want to be in edge mode. I want to kind of cut out this top right one now. And there we go, have a little bit more irregular damage right there. It's not just a straight edge right there. So I'm going to go in now and just kind of use my multi-cut tool and just create this jagged outline the way we want to do it. All right. Always terminating into a corner like so. And then I'm going to go in and just create a more irregular pattern and then terminate into a corner. Turn that into a four-sided and that into a triangle. And really, I'm just randomly just drawing these edges, making sure that I'm not leaving any five-sided whoops-a-daisies just laying around. The main thing is I just don't want to have something that's really just a diamond again. All right. All right, so I like that. So I'm going to select, that's looking a little diamondish right there. Go into Edge Tool and do what I just did. Yeah. Edge Mode, multi-cut. Terminate into a corner there. Always starting where there's already a vertex. Control Z will undo the last little divot you made. Now let's see if we can get an interesting shape out of this random stuff I just made. I know this is going to definitely be gone. And there we go. A little bit more irregularly shaped guy going on here. And yeah, we're adding a few more faces to our model here. But in the long run, I think it'll be worth it. So for instance, if you wanted to delete this, see what happened if we delete this little edge loop right here, this little edge. Double click it, delete edge. And our UVs stayed the same pretty much. So we can go in and kind of optimize what we've done maybe a little bit. But there we've created a five-sided polygon, so we can't do that. I don't know. I just know five-sided polygons by heart now. I know when they pop up. But you're just going to have to be a little bit more careful in what you leave. All right, I think that's about as optimized as we're going to be able to get here. So I'm going to double click in that hole. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to extrude this guy in. All right. And in fact, I'm going to go to Vertices. And we're just going to try to get them as close to the center as possible. We're going to do that trick again where we merge them all on the same one. So I'm going to unselect them. I'm going to select one vertice. This will be the vertice we're going to snap all the others to. But we need to select those. So I'm going to hold down Shift. We'll do an inverse selection. We'll leave that vertice alone. We're going to select my Move tool, double click it to bring up these Move tool options. Go to Move Snap Settings. Make sure Retain Component Spacing is turned off. Hold down V for Vector and just snap it to the middle there. Select them all. And here's another little shortcut. Hold down Shift, right click, merge vertices, merge vertices. I guess that's what Maya's added so many new features. Yeah, one vertex is moving them all now. And I've made that so crazy that I don't think I have to go in and do any more modeling there. But what I do need to do is I need to go in and re-UV them So I'm going to go in and go to wireframe, select it, press 6 to go back into regular view. So I'm going to look straight on at it. We'll go to UV, do a camera-based UV, and it's going to take a snapshot of it, and based on the current perspective we're looking at it. There we go. Here's the guy I'm working with now. Just make him a little bit smaller. Maybe use that unfold UV tool. You know, that brush we had going on. Oh, redo. Shift Z redos, by the way. Those are redo. And I'm going to kind of just stretch it and fudge it a little bit. And one more thing we want to do is we want to go in and smooth those edges a little bit. I don't want them to be. So I'm going to go into edge mode, select these edges. And now you see we have those hard edges there. Let's see, where is it? And mesh display, soften edge. There we go. And now I have damage on my building. And since we spent a little bit more time making that a regular pattern like so, it looks a little bit more normal instead of just that big diamond. We'll keep that. I don't think that's too terrible. But that definitely looks a lot better, doesn't it, guys? All right. So what we're going to do is, you want to do something real sneaky, guys? Let's add a little bit of modularity to this going on right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to object mode. I'm going to hit Control D, and I'm going to clone my whole building here. All right. And then I'm going to grab this little section of my building here. Make sure to get every single little piece. All right. And then with the faces on this building, we're going to do that inverse selection again. Hold down Shift. We're going to click and drag. And we're just going to delete everything. Oops. Delete the other building too. Only want to have that building selected. My bad on that. And wireframe mode really helps making selections a little bit easier. That way you can see if you're going to select anything behind you. Again, 4 on the keyboard will bring up wireframe. Zoom out, do an inverse selection, delete, and look what we have now. We have a modular piece of damage that we can now start inserting into my building here. I'm going to go to CenterPivot. We can do that by going to Modify, CenterPivot. And then I'm going to adjust my pivot point again. Hold down D for dog, V as in vector, left click and snap like so. And now I can reuse this damage as many times as I want to. So I'm going to maybe go down here, just bring up normal view. I'm going to snap it right there. So now all I got to do is select my original building, delete these faces. Make sure we don't have the other one selected as well. Just select your original building. Go to faces. Select just those faces. What is going on here? I swear I'm not this bad at Maya. It's just this new version. I'll tell you what. Why don't I just go in and move it first, and then select the corners that I want to add this damage to. There we go. Go into object mode, snap it in, and now we got our damage again. You know what? I'm going to cheat. I'm going to add a little bit of variation to what's going on here. Oh, it looks like I forgot. I'm going to cheat again. Merge those up. And we get a little bit of stretching there. Maybe we can fix it. Put it back the way it was, maybe just a little bit. It's just never going to be the same, guys. But we're going to fudge it just real nicely. Then we can't do that. What can we do to save this? What if we just re-UV this damage again? You know, I can even bring it out like this added another little change. I can even go in and maybe do another multi-cut and just really start changing up the look of what we got going on. Press enter. Now I can go in and press and pull these vertices, and don't worry about the stretching because we're about to re-UV this bad boy. And we're just adding a little bit more variation. But we had a nice starting point with that modular piece we just made. So it's going to give us a nice little bit of variation while not starting completely from scratch again. I'm going to scale this out maybe. All right, so now what I want to do is select just that damage. That's going to be a little bit hard to select all these faces, so let's cheat. Here's a nice way to use our UV editor to easily select things here. Let me make that a little bit smaller. So in my scene view here, I'm going to go to UV and select UV. Select that, one UV on my newly made damage part. And then I'm going to go over to my UV editor, hold down Control, go to shell. Now I have that brand new damage made. And then we can hold down Control and go to face. And there we go. All the faces selected. I didn't have to go in and select all these different random faces. And I'm going to do the same thing here. We're going to start with UV camera based. It's going to give us this whacked out big guy again. Control the shell so we can select all of my UVs. We'll bring them out here. We'll bring up my unfold UV tool. And we'll just kind of relax the UVs so they're not as distorted. All right. Press R on the keyboard to bring up our scale shortcut. And here we have turn 90 degrees up here, turn 45 degrees. I'm going to scale this in just a little bit. Since this is damage, we don't have to, we can kind of play it loose here and just kind of scale it in just willy-nilly as much as we want. All right. So even though we started with this, we have a little bit more variation there. Now we have 3 different tiles of damage that we can rock on my building. Now I can go to my other side and just use these as well. So I'm going to duplicate this again. All right. And I'm just going to isolate these damage pieces. All right. In fact, instead of deleting the whole thing, I can select just the faces that I want to extract from this duplicated piece. And I can go to Mesh, and there should be an extract unless it's changed. I'm going to pause and see where it's gone. It's over in Edit Mesh. We go to Extract. And now I'll select my newly extracted damage corner. Go to Modify, CenterPivot. And we can pull that out like so. Oh, looks like we forgot another little piece of it. We always forget to do that. So I'm going to undo. And this time, I'm going to make sure I get that face selected. Edit Mesh, Extract, select it, Modify, CenterPivot, and boom. Let's do the same thing for this guy up here. Even though he's not our best kid on the lineup, he'll still do quite nicely. Go to Edit Mesh, Edit Mesh, Extract, and now I can get rid of this guy. Now I have, I'll just duplicate that last one. Now I have 3 different damage edges that we can use on the other side here. So why don't I go ahead and just insert those like so. I'll do the first one with you guys. Well, they're not in the right direction now. What are we going to do? We're going to do some magic. Let's go to Scale X and do -1. Boom. Now they're facing the right way. Great. So now I can come in here and just start messing around, deleting some edges as I see fit, just to add a little bit of variation to our model. And this is how we're kind of breaking up our tiled deal we had going on here. I'm not particularly staying too close to the original here. I'm just adding my own flare, but I'm getting the same point across. So now we have 3 more damaged parts. I want to go ahead and modify center pivot all of these. And we'll go to modify freeze transformations just for the heck of it, just so they start out fresh. Hold down D for dog, V is in vector, left click and drag. Actually, make sure you don't hit the axis here. We only want to mess with the pivot. And I'll put that one right there, I reckon. I want to bring up my color so I can see what I'm doing. We'll get this tall one up top, and we'll bring it down to the bottom again. Oh, D for dog, V is in vector. Get that pivot point just where I want it. Snap it with V to the existing building. Get this sort of close. D is in dog, V is in vector. Now we can change the pivot point of that singular piece. And now we have a building that has damage all up and down the sides. Not too bad, right? So the last thing we need to do is select everything on this building, and let's just make it one big happy building. Go to Mesh, Combine, go to Vertex Mode. Now we need to merge all of our vertices, so we'll just select all the vertices here. Edit Mesh, Merge. Make sure our threshold is really low because we only want to merge vertices that are super close together. That's what that threshold does. If it was really large, then we might stand the chance of accidentally merging some of these close ones together. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and do that, and we'll show you what a large threshold can do. Oh, can't do it on that. I wonder why. Well, let's see what's going on here. I want to mesh threshold of 1. 1. There we go. I guess the threshold was just too big. But now we can see that my newly patchworked damage on my building, the true test will be going to one of the areas you know there was a seam and moving that vertex around. Hit Control to V to undo that. Now I have a building made with damage on the sides. We fully utilized tileable textures. And look how much UV space we're just using for just one building. A little bit right there and a little bit right there. The rest is all tiled. But we get a building that's starting to really come along. Now, in the next chapter, we're going to go in and see how we can make some of these windows and doors and really bring life to this building and bring it to completion. And I might show you a few more as far as buildings go. I might show you one more video after that on how we can really go in and tackle this really bad damaged area right here and something like right there where more intense modeling may have to take place. But for the basic part, for the most part rather, once I show you how to make that ultra damage right there and show you how to make these little assets right here, such as the doors and the windows, for my purposes, I should have all the tools I need to finish making all of the buildings in my level here. All right. And then after that, we're going to go in and tackle the back wall, some of these smaller props, learn how we can use transparency in Unity to make this fence really pop. And then after that, we'll maybe try to make some generic buildings to put in the background with maybe some glowy windows to make it look like the windows have lights on them. And then we'll tackle some, maybe making some decals, because you see I have damage on the front of my building. Maybe we can see how we can make some transparent decals to really just kind of paste damage on in random places, so we don't have to go in and physically model my building. We can just put little stickers on them to simulate that kind of damage effects. And then, since we are making a 3D level, I'll have a whole video or two dedicated on what I'm going to do with the right side here. Remember, I'm going to make that bank side with the water on the right side. Yeah. So that's what's coming on up in the next videos. And of course, we'll go over the lighting aspects of it all. And then we're going to get into really exploring what this new physically based rendering materials are inside of Unity 5. Previously, I don't know how far you've gotten into texturing, but usually you would see like a specular map. Now we have a metallic map and a smoothness map. I'm going to show us how we can make some textures based on that. And then we're going to go in and see how we can convert these color textures into normal maps using Endo 2. All right. So that's a little bit what's coming on above. But for right now, stay tuned to the next video and we'll see how we can complete these buildings. All right. Thanks.